Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee is set to meet the U.S. ambassador to discuss visa restrictions imposed on Ghana over a stalemate between the two countries. The U.S. government imposed the sanctions because it says government is not cooperating in efforts to repatriate some 7,000 Ghanaians illegally resident there. But the Ministry of Foreign Affairs explains, among others, that it is unconvinced that the illegal migrants are Ghanaian nationals. The restriction for now does not affect all Ghanaians, even though the U.S. government is threatening to escalate it.
First, we are suspending the issuance of visas for domestic employees, such as drivers or maids, for Ghanaian diplomats working in the United States. This visa restriction affects a very small number of people. Second, many government employees traveling for tourism and business, and their spouses and children, will now receive single entry visas that are only valid for 30 days instead of the usual 5-year visa with multiple entries. This limitation does not affect how long you are allowed to stay in the United States once you arrive, just the period of time you have to enter. All other visa categories, such as student visas, employment visas, diplomatic or official visas, and immigrant visas, will continue to be processed normally. The restrictions only apply to new visa applications. We are not canceling or revoking visas that we have already issued. The visa restrictions are subject to change. If that happens, we will release updated information on our website.
So this is a statement put out by the U.S. Embassy. Now, we have a Ghanaian lecturer who says that he has been affected even though it doesn't fall into any of the categories mentioned by the U.S. Embassy. We will come to that. We'll be speaking with him shortly. But ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, says the meeting with the U.S. ambassador should help in resolving the matter, adding there is reason to be optimistic.
I pray that this council will be a council that will be here to stay and will not shy away from you in the media to contribute to informed discourse, serving as informed resource personnel that can help shape the debate and elevate the national discussions on matters to do with foreign policy, to do with international relations and what.
Obviously, we have challenges within the foreign affairs sector. One that really comes to mind is a visa restriction. The committee has been on it with the foreign minister. Is there any headway in dealing with this matter?
I think it's early days yet to begin to speak to the media about it, but I can assure you that a lot has gone on behind the scenes. We've met with the foreign ministry to discuss this matter. We have meetings lined up with the U.S. Embassy to listen to their side of the story and to know really what has led to these visa restrictions. But so far, it does appear that there is a commitment to resolve this matter and to get Ghana off that list.
Because once we deal with it, the fate of over 7,000 Ghanaians in the U.S. hangs in the balance. Are you considering that as well? Whether they should come home, they should stay, what should be the modalities?
The priority has to be our contemporaries in the United States of America. I am more concerned about them than we getting visas here. The limited restrictions so far affect those of us in the legislature and the executive. I think it's good. I do not want it to escalate to other larger sections of society. But we have to keep in mind the 7,000 Ghanaians. We have asked for the list in Parliament at the Committee of Foreign Affairs. We don't have that list yet.
Well, joining us on the phone line right now is Dr. Michael Osedu. He's a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast who says that he believes he has been affected by the sanctions, visa restrictions imposed by the U.S. government. Let's speak to him. Good evening to you, Dr. Michael Osedu. Now, why do you feel that you have been affected in the sanctions, visa restrictions imposed by the U.S. government?
Thank you very much, Israel. Yes, I feel I've been affected because I applied for a visa to attend a conference in the United States from the 28th to the 1st of May. I went to my interview on the 20th, so that's a couple of days ago, and my visa was approved. So I collected the visa this Friday. that notice that has been given a 30-day single entry visa validity with a notice attached. The notice claims that apparently there is currently some sanctions on certain Ghanaian travelers, and because of that, my visa has been restricted to 30 days single entry. And they gave a category of a number of travelers that the sanctions supposedly applied to. And the one that was ticked for me claims that I am a Ghanaian executive or a legislative branch official, which I'm obviously not. And what is even more worse was that my visa was granted from the 21st of February to the 19th of March. But I had indicated that my travel would be from 28th of April to May. So the visa will expire before my conference. And I was actually given a notice that it's because of these sanctions. That is why they're giving me that. I still have been affected by these sanctions.
All right, but you say that you don't belong to the executive or the legislature. Could it be that you're traveling with a group that falls within that category?
Not at all, not at all. I am traveling individually. I am a single person, a scientist that has been invited to a scientific meeting. I am not part of a group. I'm not part of it. I'm traveling with any family member. It is just me. I applied as a civil servant, as a scientist, as a lecturer, with all documentation to prove that I indicated these in my application form. So I'm not part of a group or anything at all of that nature.
Now, it may also be, you just indicated that you're a civil servant. It may also be that this sanction probably affects civil servants as well, because then the U.S. government sees them as being part of the executive of government.
Right. This is what I need to be made clear to me, because of course we listened to the news, and when the release was made, it was made clear that this affected only a limited category of Ghanaians, and they indicated that it's either the executive or the legislature or their members or people who hold certain type of passport. I am not part of any of these groups. I am just a common Ghanaian. So I don't see if it affects every Ghanaian or teachers. I am a university teacher. If it affects me as a university teacher, then that should be made clear. And my visa should also be given, the validity should cover the time that I want to travel. Currently, why do you give me a visa that expires before my intended purpose of travel? That is ridiculous.
Have you tried to seek any clarification from the embassy?
Yes, I have tried. I have tried severally. After a long battle, I managed to speak to somebody and even made a point that they should clarify that if it affects every Ghanaian, then that should be known, so that I know that it affects every Ghanaian, and then I can plan my travel. I wouldn't have attended my interview 2 months to my date of travel. I would have waited so that my visa would actually cover the time I need to travel. But currently, the impression is that it affects some category of Ghanaians for which I am not part, but it's like a subtle or clandestine way of putting sanctions on everybody. That's what I feel.
All right. Now, I wish you all the best in your checks, in your attempts to get clarification, but my initial checks indicate that you can actually enter with the visa, and once you get to immigration, it will be extended for you to cover your period of travel. But I wish you all the best.
That is interesting.
I wish you all the best in that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, but Emile, President Akufo-Addo says the future prosperity of the country's youth is key to his government development agenda. According to him, creation of jobs and opportunities for the country remains his topmost priority. He was inaugurating the Council of Foreign Affairs, an elite group of past foreign affairs ministers and career diplomats tasked to champion Ghana's domestic and foreign policy objectives.
We have, over the last 2.5 decades, managed to build an enviable reputation as a peaceful and stable country and a beacon of democracy in our region and on the continent. It is in our collective interest that we do everything we can to preserve this hard-won reputation and attract the investments that will facilitate the structural transformation of our economy, so central to the future prosperity and stability of our country. Our foreign policy is an extension of our aims, achieved through the vehicle of good neighborliness, which seeks friendship with all nations who seek our friendship and partnership in furtherance of these aims. These principles guide our relations within our regional body of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, our continental body of the African Union, AU, the intergovernmental structures of the Commonwealth and La Francophonie, and the confines of the global community of the United Nations, UN. In all of this, think tanks such as yours are vital to this end. Not only are you expected to be facilitators in improving policymaking and execution, but you're also to act as agents of social change, the fifth estate, as some would call it. If effectively positioned and focused, think tanks can strike a formidable partnership with state and non-state actors alike to set and deepen the agenda of public discourse and shape national, regional, continental, and global conversations.
Council member Victor Bao says the group will work to build the capacity of the Foreign Affairs Ministry.
We do hope that this think tank will come to represent one of the dependable institutions of this continent, if not of this world. For it is an occasion which promises to open the way for our dear country, Ghana, to join the ranks of other states which have been benefiting from well-massaged opinions and international affairs proffered by institutions similar to the one that we are inaugurating today. It is a matter of great pride that this is happening under the watch of the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
We're taking a break here on JoyNews Prime, but still ahead, the Justice Emile Short Commission has turned down a request by lawyers for some witnesses who have appeared so far to cross-examine other witnesses.
In light of the above reasons, the Commission declined the request by counsel for both Mr. Deleli Brempong as well as Honorable Sam George.
MP for Ningo Pram Sam George has meanwhile denied ever describing pro-NDC militia group Azoka Boys as a community-based organization.
As I would rather refer to them as a community-based organization.
Yesterday you said some group was a community-based organization.
No, my lord.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with all that and more. It's been 5 days since President Akufo-Addo directed leadership of his party, the governing NPP, to invite their colleagues in the largest opposition, the NDC, to engage on how to work out modalities to disband political party militias in the country. JoyNews checks in the last few hours indicate this is yet to happen. The President, in the State of the Nation address, threatened to legislate the outlawing of these groups if the parties fail to work out a plan.
I want to use the platform of this message to make a sincere, passionate appeal to the leaders of the two main political parties in our country, MPP and NDC, to come together as soon as possible, preferably next week, to agree on appropriate measures to bring an end to this worrying and unacceptable phenomenon of vigilantism in our body politic. I have asked the leadership of the NPP to extend an invitation to the leadership of the NDC for such a meeting. The security services of the country will be on standby to assist this meeting. If voluntary disbandment by the parties is not feasible, then I will initiate legislation in the matter.
Now, as we await the overture from the governing MPP, Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Sam George is proposing naming and shaming of politicians who own these groups as a way to curb the phenomenon. Giving testimony at the Emile Short Commission, he revealed many of those who own the groups occupy prominent positions in this country or have occupied prominent positions in the country.
We need to, as a nation and as politicians, take a stand and say that we will name and shame everyone who is involved in any of these activities. My Lord, politicians, I mean, the media is replete with politicians taking ownership of many of these groups. If we are able to name the politicians and shame them, it goes a long way. I can give you several examples of politicians who've taken ownership of these groups, and many of them occupy prominent positions in the country today, okay, or have occupied prominent positions in the past. So if we are always talking about the issue of landguardism or vigilantes or private militias, and the people who these militias serve continue to be beneficiaries of political power and the spoils of state, without mentioning and going after those people, my Lord, it's a pretentious exercise. I mean, if the commission would ask me to, I would give examples of individuals who have, on record, taken ownership of some of these groups.
Now, Minority spokesperson on Defense and Interior, James Agaga, says it will be impossible to legislate against political militia groups as proposed by President Akufo-Addo. He says any such move will be unconstitutional because the laws provide for freedom of assembly. Chairman of the committee, Sede Champong, however, disagrees.
You cannot in law say they are vigilantes, and even without the commission of any of the known offenses under the Criminal and Other Offences Act, you go after them. You can't do that.
So your position is that there is no way the state can legislate against vigilantism and militia activities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. To the extent that when the people assemble and have not committed a crime in the process, they are together as a group, and you can't establish that they are about to commit an offense or have committed an offense. Any legislation which says don't assemble would be unconstitutional, because remember that the right to assembly is a constitutionally guaranteed right. The only time they can go after you is when, in the process of monitoring, you assault somebody or you commit an act of violence in and around the precincts of the polling station, or you attempt to intimidate voters. That is when you can be caught. And I'm saying that there are laws that prohibit the behaviors I have related to. Don't require any such legislation.
So my final clarification would be, so for you, any such move will be
counterproductive. Needless and counterproductive.
Will you support any such legislation when it's introduced?
To the extent that the legislation wouldn't achieve any useful purpose, I wouldn't waste my time. Because for me, there are laws to deal with vigilantism. All that is lacking now is the political will and courage to enforce the existing laws. So if you go and pass another legislation, you'd simply be wasting everybody's time. Why? You want to pass the legislation and once again not show the courage and will to implement it.
He couldn't have said it better for his opinion. He couldn't have said it better for his opinion. That is his thinking, and that is his worldview. I do not hold anything against him for expressing himself.
And he's fully convinced that any such legislation will be unconstitutional because you can't legislate against people, coming together and taking a decision on how they would want to go about helping police electoral processes.
Do we believe in the security architecture of our country? Do we believe in the security architecture of our country? When we decided to set up the Special Prosecutor's Office, they came that the only enshrined office of the presidency should be the Attorney General's office, and we couldn't do the Special Prosecutor's Office. Today, the Special Prosecutor's office is working. Let us dream.
these party militias and insist that we disband these party militias now.
Like all bad things in this country, we call bribes by fond names and we stop seeing them as bad. We call these things political vigilantism and we don't quite appreciate how bad. It is plain warlordism.
The NCC will continue to condemn, name and shame all political parties who endorse, support, sponsor and or identify themselves with any of these groups until these groups are disbanded in word and in deed.
Political parties must be made compelled either by law to immediately disband these groups. Not only disband the groups, disarm the groups.
Coming from my own experience in Liberia and what I saw, and my family, some family members actually fought in the war, and some died in the process. You know, people died, friends of mine died, and it touches everyone. I mean, when a situation comes, it doesn't know party colors, it doesn't know the color of your skin, what you're wearing, it doesn't know anything. This is not on, and we cannot, as a people, allow it to go on.
I believe that the time has come for us as a political class to say that this development is not good for the future of this country. We need to collectively stand up against this, development. That is what we politicians collectively must resolve to avoid, because nobody knows who the next victim will be.
Watching JoyNews Prime, we're taking a break here now to bring you business news. And coming up in business news, corporate governance expert calls for review of the mandate of the central bank governor to restrain him from chairing board of the bank as well as the monetary policy committee.
The governor is chairman of this, is chairman of this, is chairman of that. It's not good corporate governance.
Sandra Fenu will be here with the business news. Stay tuned in. The minority in Parliament wants Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen removed from his post for disrespecting the House. Its Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, says he will file a motion for a vote of censure on the minister, which, if approved, will force the president to sack him. Mr. Mubarak is unhappy with the minister over his inability to appear before the House to answer questions on its sector, despite 3 separate invitations. But Deputy Majority Leader Adwa Safo says the Majority Whip is blowing the issue out of proportion.
I must say this is worrying. In February alone, the Minister for Trade and Industry has written 3 times for his questions to be deferred. Mr. Speaker, there's some deliberateness. Because when the President was here to read the State of the Nation, Mr. Speaker, all of them find time to be here. They prioritize coming to sit here so that the President will see them in Parliament. But when Parliament wants them to come and ask questions, they put other businesses ahead of the business of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, for a minister in the space of just 1 month to have sought permission for his questions to be postponed 3 times. 3 times. Mr. Speaker, I just want to self-note. I will come with a motion of censure because the minister doesn't want to be a minister. Because he doesn't respect this House. He doesn't want to come and answer to the people. But when it came to the President, they were all sitting here. If we do that, all of us will be making ourselves irrelevant. And Mr. Speaker, I wish that when this motion comes, both sides of the House will support it for the minister to be standing. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
But the minority chief whip, although has very genuine concerns the Speaker, is blowing the issue out of proportion, Mr. Speaker, and actually imputing improper motive, which is against our standing orders. To say that there's deliberateness on the part of the Trade Minister to avoid questions in this House. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing to avoid because the answers to the questions have been published since last week. So if a minister indeed didn't want to appear before this House, he wouldn't have provided answers to the question. And the Honorable Chief Whip has a copy of the order paper. The answers have been provided. This shows you that the man is ready and prepared to answer the question.
The House, meanwhile, on Monday began a debate on the President's State of the Nation address. Listen to Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah and Minority Spokesperson on Foreign Affairs Okujeto Ablakwa, who is urging the President to account for monies that have accrued from fundraising programs for the National Cathedral.
With fundraising for the Cathedral. As we speak, we do not know as a country how much has been raised. We do not know how much has been raised in Ghana. We do not know how much has been raised from Washington, D.C. It will have been great for the President to give us an indication of how much has been raised. We still have concerns about prioritization. We still have concerns about how we are relocating and seeking to bring down important edifices. Only a few days before the President addressed the nation, Ghana, sadly, was put on the blacklist by the European Commission. Blacklist of 23 countries that have strategic deficiencies in anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. This is major, and it is shocking that it did not find expression in the over 2-hour speech of the President when he addressed the nation. We have now been put in a category of countries like Afghanistan, North Korea, Iraq, Pakistan, Syria, Yemen, Tunisia, Trinidad and Tobago.
Our focus at this moment must not be on the 1 or 2 challenges in our midst. As the President says, yes, we may have a few challenges, but the state of our nation is healthier. We must instead summon the courage to surmount these challenges and move forward. And that's why the President concludes his message by saying that we must stand shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand. I dare say, even Mr. Speaker, boot by boot, working together to achieve the day of the coming beauty of Ghana. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
So Member of Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee, Helen Intoso, is asking the security agencies to step up efforts to rescue 3 kidnapped Takrady girls. She says it's about time the police made conscious efforts to also update the public on the status of investigations to improve public confidence in them. The former Volta Regional Minister says government has shown over the months that it is not prioritizing the search.
We were expecting, you see, in talking about the security of this country, he talked about vigilantism, and the next that we, the women, you know, if not at least every woman will expect that. President will also say something about the girls that were kidnapped. Because you can imagine if you are a parent and your child is kidnapped, you will have sleepless nights. And this have been weeks, it has been months that these girls have been kidnapped. Nobody knows their whereabouts. So we're expecting that in the president's address, you know, he will mention that, look, these girls are kidnapped and I'm still concerned about the kidnap of these children, and Ghanaians, we should all help to make sure that we find these children. But nothing of that. Maybe he's not on top of the situation. Maybe he has not been briefed. But I know that when it comes to, you know, ministers of state, I know they meet to brief the president what happens in their sector. So I'm very much I'm aware that, because I'm a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, the Interior Minister, the Police Commander, the Police CID officer, you know, Director General, they appeared before our committee, and we asked them those questions. They said they are looking for these children. They are having some intelligence, some intel in certain areas. They shouldn't keep the parents in suspense. They should actually come out to tell them, look, we have no clue. We have worked so hard and we have no clue about where your children are. So if they will take it that, look, our children have been killed, then they take it like that. After all, there were people who went cruising and they've not been found. So whether they are dead or they are not dead, but for that period till now, we should just write it off that they are dead. So that's what I expect maybe the police to be doing.
Meanwhile, it's been 194 days since Priscilla Blessing Baintum, the first of the 3 females believed to have been kidnapped in Takrady, disappeared. Of the other 2, Ruth Love Kwesing has been gone for 84 days, whilst Priscilla Mantibia Crunchy has been gone for 67 days. JoyNews has since waged a campaign to help find the girls. Together with families of the girls, we demand swift and consistent action from the state security agencies. For you, our viewers, we urge you to put up a post on social media with the hashtag Bring Back Our Tardy Girls. And this appeal also goes to those of you, our viewers, in Nigeria and beyond. If you see something, say something so we can help find these girls. We're taking a break.